Hello and welcome back to the house in Fata Morgana. I was told that we are nearing the end, which would make sense considering the point of the story that we're in, but I also thought this several times before. And I would assume that the retelling of Jacopo's memories will take a while still, so let us dive back in. The slave. 3 years back, there was a slave revolt at the Lord's Manor. That's not quite accurate though, because while I was partly responsible for inciting the riot, I wasn't actually a slave. The local lord was spoken of in whispers as the second coming of the great tyrant of old. The people were constantly grumbling about how he seemed to treat the land like his own personal playground, exploiting everything and everyone on it for his own amusement. When enough stress and resentment builds up in a contained space, all it takes is a little shove from the outside to burst. And that was our plan. Me and a number of other dissatisfied citizens gathered together to pop that bubble and give the Lord a taste of how we felt about him. With the help of a slave trader, I infiltrated the Lord's manor. I'd known slaves weren't treated well, but seeing it for myself, I thought most of these people would have been happier having been born as a dog or cat and owned by someone who actually had a heart. It was revolting, a flagrant injustice. Broadly speaking, there are 2 types of people who see injustice in the world. The first are those who have everything, who sit unchallenged at the top of the world, looking down on the less fortunate with pity. The second are those with nothing, who wish to overthrow the entire system keeping them down. It should come as no surprise that I fell in the second camp. Once I was inside, I went around the manor telling all the slaves about our plan. Most of them had long since lost the will to fight, but with enough assurance there were people on the outside ready and waiting to help. Glimmers of hope started to return to their eyes. Finding out they weren't alone, that they weren't helpless anymore, had an incredible effect on their morale. And once the slaves were convinced, the revolt began. It ended up being much larger in scale than I had imagined, and many lost their lives in the process, but the majority of them managed to escape. Naturally, the slaves couldn't stay in the city, so I directed them to people waiting outside who would take them to another city or a neighboring country. I had neither the money nor the power to guarantee them a good life on the outside, but that hardly mattered to them. Everyone was sure that wherever they ended up would be better than staying, and I prayed that would be the case. It was during the revolt that I saved Morgana. I would have sent her off somewhere else like all the other slaves, but she was in so dire a condition when I found her that she could hardly even move on her own. She had been sapped of all her willpower. So I brought her to the brothel where a friend of mine worked and asked her to take Morgana in. My companions and I reveled in the revolt's success. It wasn't enough of an accomplishment to have any real political implications, but we still felt like heroes. Drunk on victory, we started talking about going bigger, starting a full-on revolution. Once the elation passed, though, we realized there wasn't much more we could do. Even if we did manage to start a large enough uprising to kill the Lord, we were only peasants. Not only did we not know the first thing about ruling, the other counts would never acknowledge our authority anyway. We'd pretend to be in control until the next in line showed up, and that would be the end of that. So we just ended up sitting on our thumbs, no way to do anything about our discontent. Skip forward to about a month before Morgana's birthday. One day, a middle-aged woman approached me. I had never met her before, but she had wavy hair that reminded me a great deal of my own. Looking me straight in the eye, the woman said, "I was once a maidservant for the Barnier estate. They've done their best to keep it secret, but I had a child with a previous lord. And that child is you." The revelation came completely out of the blue. According to her, I had royal blood, and if we could convince the Lord of that, I would become royalty. Furthermore, she, as my alleged mother, could return to her old life at the manor. The woman urged me to take action. To meet the Lord, reveal my lineage, and reclaim my rightful place at the Barnier house. I would no longer be a poor peasant living in the slums. I would have a comfortable life. I obviously wasn't going to agree on the spot. Her story was so blatantly dubious, I needed some time to think on it. If she was telling the truth, though, it could transform our revolution from a dream into a reality. We wouldn't be restricted to inciting inconsequential uprisings. I could seize power legitimately and make some actual change. So I asked the woman to give me some time to consider. Interesting. Have you decided what you're going to give her? That was the very first thing I heard when I stepped through the back door of the brothel. Maria, a short, blonde-haired prostitute and good friend of mine, flashed me a devilish smirk. I bought a necklace, as per your suggestion. Girls appreciate that sort of thing, don't they? Most do. Me, I've got a taste for knives and other such pointy things. I doubt she has much interest in those, though. Sometimes I wonder if you're actually a girl. Anyone could see that Maria and I were close, but our relationship was strictly platonic. Of course, given her line of work, it was unavoidable that people thought otherwise. And honestly, it irritated me every time someone suggested we were anything more than friends. People have this annoying short-sighted tendency to assume that just because a guy and girl are friendly, they must be intimate. It didn't matter that she was a girl. I only thought of her as a friend, and as best as I could tell, that's all she thought of me as well. Maria and I first met when we were children. Even at that age, she was already a prostitute, myself a petty thief. We were both incredibly lucky to have survived to adulthood with only ourselves to watch each other's backs. It's possible the only reason either of us maintained the willpower to survive this long was because we had each other to bitch about life to when things got bad. So, is today the day? Are you finally gonna tell her how you feel? Excuse me? Tell her how I what? Don't be coy. You know exactly what, and it's about time you manned up and told her. I think you've got a better chance than you think. Do I need to remind you how old she is? 12, as of today. Practically an adult. I was knee-deep in dick at that age. You're comparing her to you. The longer you hold off saying something, the more difficult it becomes. Break a leg. Party's gonna be in the back, so there won't be any customers around to interfere. Oh, alright. I chewed over what Maria had said as I watched her disappear down a brothel corridor. She wasn't wrong. She wasn't overanalyzing. I did, indeed, have special feelings for Morgana. Women seem to have this strange, somewhat terrifying ability to read people's minds. And Maria was a prime example of that. I had never once so much as suggested to anyone I might think anything of Morgana, but Maria had somehow managed to pick up on it almost immediately. Fortunately, she didn't seem particularly bothered by the fact. Though if anyone else were to find out, I could only imagine the looks I would get. I mean, Morgana was 12, and I was 22. That wasn't normal. I've never felt this way about anyone else that young either. Any other girl Morgana's age just looked like another kid to me. So, why was she any different? She was covered in scars, and every other time we met, she would tell me to go to hell, and she refused to walk anywhere with me, and no matter how much ice I broke, I could never seem to get all the way through. Yet still, the world felt like it was just a little bit better a place when I was with her. It made me want to see her smile, no matter how grotesque her face. How would I even go about saying it, assuming I actually did? Even if your face still isn't healed in 4 years, I'll take you as my lifetime partner, Morgana. God, no, that's terrible. There has to be a better way to put it. Now I was getting stressed out, and it was all thanks to Maria. This was supposed to be a day of celebration, not of fretting over stupid personal matters. Not long after I arrived at the brothel and made my way to the back room, Maria and a handful of other unoccupied girls showed up. Morgana, who was supposed to be the guest of honor, was even more reticent than usual. The prostitutes chatted amongst themselves about work in unabashedly graphic detail, trading info on which customers were good and which customers were bad. All the while, Morgana looking incredibly uncomfortable. You guys think you could maybe change the subject? Like we have anything else to talk about. Making the birthday girl want to hide in a corner defeats the whole... Who's speaking? God, this is always so confusing. Defeats the whole purpose, don't you think? Oh no, don't mind me. I don't have anything I want to talk about. Morgana said almost in a whisper, her head downturned. At least eat something then. The cookies are barely sweetened and dry as rocks, but they're edible. Jacopo, you little bitch. You've got some stones to shit-talk my cookies to my face. Stop it, Maria. Stop throwing... Oh, God. Stop it, Maria. Stop throwing things at me. The other girls cackled as Maria and I bickered, hoping it might have elicited a reaction from Morgana as well. I snuck a glance over at her, but she remained expressionless. You are right about one thing, though. This is Morgana's day. So, let's change the subject. Maria said with a little laugh, having hurled everything within arm's reach at me. Like I said, I don't have anything to talk about. Sure you do, you just have to look a little harder. Not saying you have to reminisce for us. It can be anything. Let's see. Here's an idea. Are there any guys you got your eyes on? I spewed my tea all over the table. There is. And then I started choking. What? Seriously? Holy shit. Who is it? Who is it? Tell me, who's the lucky guy? God. Everyone fell silent. Maria gave me a sympathetic look, and I knew exactly what she wanted to say. Sorry, kid, you ain't got nothing on God. Asshole. If you're gonna dream, dream big, right? Yeah, I get where you're coming from, pining after the all-powerful, all-knowing God. I'm with you. You bald-faced liar. The grass may be a hell of a lot greener up there, but it's a bit far, don't you think? You're better off settling for the weeds down here. Did you just imply I'm a weed? Maria looked over and gave a wide grin at the sight of me grinding my teeth, then continued. Say, the young man over... Wait, stop right there. Don't say another word. Whoopsie, me and my big mouth. I almost did your job for you. Damn it, Maria. This was not good. Like hell I was going to let her corner me into saying it here. I stole a glance at Morgana, but her gaze was locked on her knees. I couldn't see what, if any, kind of reaction she was having. Morgana, what she was trying to say is that I have to go. What? I have to go to the bathroom. Sure. Morgana got up from her chair and left the room in silence. I imagine I was making a rather flaccid expression, because as soon as Morgana was gone, Maria began cackling like a madwoman. My reply was the nearest object, courtesy of my throwing arm. Loser! How hard is it to just say it? It would have been easier if you hadn't cornered me like that. You think I believe you would have done it without a little nudge? I would have. Eventually. Eventually ain't gonna cut it. Now's the right time. And don't worry, me and the girls won't make fun of you for getting your rocks off to little girls. It's not the reason I like her. Besides, I would wait at least 4 years before. Doesn't mean you can't tell her now. I think it'd do her wonders, really. She's, well, you know. So I think knowing someone cares about her will lighten the load a bit. When she comes back, give her the necklace and tell her how you feel. And if she turns you down, we can all have a good laugh about it. Maria and a few other girls chuckled. As uncomfortable as she was making me feel, she had a point. Regardless of whether Morgana reciprocated my feelings or not, there was a good chance that just putting them out there would help in breaking down the walls she had built in her heart. And maybe one day, I would actually be able to see her smile. I'll do it. I'll tell her. It didn't matter if I came out looking like a loser. It didn't matter if Morgana wasn't interested in me that way. What mattered was that she knew someone accepted her, regardless of her appearance or the things she had been through. And if, by some chance, there really was royal blood flowing through my veins, then I could make good on my promise to show her the world. I could put an end to her life of poverty and abuse, replace it with one of comfort and wealth. I could buy her even better medicine, something that could actually heal her face. If I truly were royalty, I could do so much more for her. Makes it sound like I want to be some kind of fairy tale hero or something. But honestly, I wouldn't have minded that. If I was going to make her happy, to wipe away all her past misfortune, why couldn't I make it a little dramatic? It wasn't usually my style, but in this case, I wouldn't have objected to a storybook ending. This, though... No, this wasn't the kind of story I was hoping for. The heavy curtains separating the guest rooms had been torn to shreds, and they were splattered with blood. A man, apparently caught without enough time to defend himself, lay splayed out naked on a bed, his empty eyes fixed on the ceiling. The whole area reeked of blood. All I could do was stare stupefied at the carnage. What the hell? Why? How could this happen? My dumbfounded muttering went unanswered, though. The few who were still alive could no better make sense of the incomprehensible massacre than me. The sudden, arbitrary upheaval of our world. The inexplicable, inescapable reality. Shortly after Morgana stepped out, I heard a woman scream from the front of the brothel. Next, a man shouting. At first, I assumed it was one of the customers losing his temper over something, but the tone of the scream seemed somehow off for something like that. It wasn't long before the noise had escalated to alarming levels, so I dashed toward the source of the shouting. A good dozen men, bandits, or maybe thieves, they seemed more organized, had raided the brothel. They slaughtered all the customers, stripping them of any valuables. and they tied up the girls, killing any who resisted. The first thought that rose to my panicked mind was that I needed to find Morgana. I needed to get her out of here, no matter what. I couldn't let her birthday turn into a tragedy. She had already been through enough, and I had to make sure she didn't suffer any further. I had to make her life into something good. Well, that's going to become quite ironic. I searched and I searched, but there was no sign of Morgana anywhere. Until suddenly, something seemed to crash into me from behind, causing me to stagger. It took a few seconds for the pain to set in, which is when I looked down to see the tip of a blade sticking out of my gut. Blood streamed along the metal surface, and there were little bits of flesh caught on the edges. I turned around just in time to see the man holding it kick me away. And before I had time to process what was happening, I hit the floor and lost consciousness. If I were a hero, I could have surely eradicated all the violent intruders in the blink of an eye, saving everyone. Protected that which I wanted to protect. Not had to lose anything. But I was a mere boy. A weak boy, helpless against a few robbers. A useless boy, unable to protect anyone. When I woke up, Maria was kneeling over me, sobbing. No sign of the tough, foul-mouthed girl I knew. Aside from her, there were 2 other girls, also crying, leaving only 4 survivors. Apparently, I wasn't dead. Looking down, I saw my bare stomach wrapped in blood-soaked bandages. The brothel lay in ruins, a bloody pile of torn bedding, clothes and bodies. I made my way back to the front, and all I could do was stare stupefied at the carnage. What the hell? Why? How could this happen? My dumbfounded muttering went unanswered though. Maria stood beside me, quietly rubbing her trembling arms. Where's Morgana? I couldn't find her. Why not? I'm sorry. I looked everywhere, but I couldn't find her. So sorry. I wanted to say I wasn't blaming her, but I couldn't find the words. If I'd had power, I could have prevented this from happening. What kind of power would I have needed, though? The physical strength to overpower the thieves? No. I needed to think bigger. If I weren't a peasant, but someone of real influence and import, no one would dare stand up to me. No petty thieves would ever even consider a raid on me. And I would have the power to punish anyone who tried. But regardless, this would have never happened at all. I was supposed to give Morgana a good life, to show her the world, to make her smile. If only I had power. Absolute, unflinching power. I had climbed to the top of the ladder when the chance was offered to me. This all could have been avoided. If only I had asserted my place as royalty a month earlier, as the woman who claimed to be my mother had urged me to. I wanted power. The power to keep everything I cared about safe. The power to change this damned world. The power to stop those filthy thieves. The power to keep her by my side. I wanted power. I heard about the attack on the brothel, and that you were hurt. I'm so glad to see you're well. About a week after the raid, I went to see the woman who professed herself my mother. As you would expect of someone who had served at the old lord's manor, she was very elegant and graceful. The shack where she stayed, though, was a shabby, drab place with bare wattle and daub walls. You were concerned about my safety? Of course. Show me a mother who is not always concerned about her child's safety, says the woman I'd never seen until a month ago. Physical distance has no bearing on a mother's love, she said with a soft smile. Age had clearly begun taking its toll on her, but I could see hints of former beauty. If you had gone to speak with the Lord and revealed your lineage when I first came to see you, you would never have been in that kind of danger. There is still time. Go to the Lord's manor, show him. I'm not really your son, am I? The woman fell silent for a moment, observing me. I could see the resemblance between us, yes, and I had no memories of my mother. It would be nice if she were to show back up someday, but it just wasn't likely. This whole thing felt extremely contrived. Discussions will progress much smoother if we both know what the other wants out of this arrangement. Start by telling me who you really are. Were you actually a maidservant for the previous lord? She gave a nod, then walked over to a grimy shelf and retrieved a ring that looked very much out of place. It was made of gold, engraved with an elaborate insignia. Look at this. It's the Barnier family crest. The previous lord gave me the ring as a gift, and I've kept it ever since, even after our relationship was discovered and I was chased out. I didn't sell it, because I knew I was with child. They will have no choice but to acknowledge you as a legitimate heir if you show them this ring. Why did you wait so long to come find me then? I was afraid they might kill you if I brought you in as a baby. Why were we separated? Misfortune. One day, bandits came and kidnapped you. Presumably they were hired by the Barnier estate because they didn't want your existence coming to light. I consider it a miracle you're still alive. I can only imagine the stern look on my face as I listened to the woman speak. Part of me did, indeed, want to take everything she said as true. Wanted to believe I was someone important. but I couldn't convince myself I had anything other than a commoner's blood running through my veins. It would appear you've done your research. I don't have any other family, to the best of my knowledge, which does indeed make me a good candidate for you to step in and claim your stake on. If I were to guess, your child with the Lord has either passed away or never existed at all. It's probably true that you worked at the Banier's manor, and it's probably true that you had relations with the former lord. You were chased out, and now you live in poverty. You want to go back to your former, more comfortable life, and while you're at it, take vengeance on the current lord. But being a woman, you have no means to accomplish that yourself. So you came up with the idea of using a fake son. If your child was still alive, he would be right about my age, wouldn't he? And we look similar enough for you to convincingly claim we're related. But the biggest reason you chose me is because I've made something of a name for myself. Because I was one of the people involved in inciting the revolt 3 years ago. The perfect choice to spearhead a revolution. How dramatic. The man who set the Lord's slaves free was secretly his family. The people would eat it right up. So, how far off am I? For some time, the woman sat in silence. Eventually, she broke it, not by yelling in anger or desperately trying to refute me, but with a smile. I knew very well what lurked behind that smile too. Scorn. You're sharp for a filthy peasant. It would seem I chose wisely. I was right. She was a manipulative, conniving shyster? Okay. But that I could work with. That fits so much better. I wasn't royalty. I wasn't a hero. I was a filthy peasant. I'm in. Yep, honesty, always good, right? Don't have to look down on people for it, but yeah, sure. The first thing I did after agreeing to work with a woman was not to approach the Lord, but to reveal my false lineage to my accomplices. They all thought I was joking, until I showed them the ring. Then, their dreams of revolution started seeming far more realistic. Maria was the one exception. Not only did she not believe me, she tried to stop me from going through with the scheme. Haven't you had enough danger for one life? Come on, forget about all this revolution stuff. We can build a new brothel and just stay low for the rest of our days. Does that really sound so bad? You're the only friend I've got left, Jacopo, she said, somewhat desperately. I sympathized with her concerns, but I didn't want to let this chance to gain some real power slip away. I was done having things taken away from me. Hear me, my fellow citizens, who live in suffering at the hands of your supposed lord. Within me flows the blood of the previous lord. I am the rightful heir. Behold, the Barnier's golden ring. Proof that I am of noble birth. Victims of this terrible tyrant, the time has come to start anew. And I shall be the one to lead you down that path. The poor, the hungry, the deprived, all of you, stand with me. My call to arms stoked the flames in the people's hearts. When the assault on the Lord's manor began, they were in an inferno of righteous justice. No one was thinking straight. I was about the only one with something resembling a clear head amidst the chaos. If I were really a hero, then I would have rejoiced in that glorious day, that momentous turning point in the city's history. I would have been honored to have led the charge. But this was all about one woman's avarice and desire for vengeance. This was all about one man's lamentation of his own weakness. I wasn't motivated by any desire to help these people. The Lord, backed into a corner, begged for his life. I decapitated him, then held his severed head up for the people. Their cheers and shouts filled the air. As I watched them rejoice, I wondered, was this the future that awaited me? Would the people come after me next? Was my head going to be in one of their hands one day? The king and the other counts acknowledged my royalty, though it was less because I had the Barnier's ring, and more because they thought that was the best way to prevent things from getting any messier. So, with their approval, I formally became the lord of the land. I also assumed the former lord's name, because despite his reputation with his people, it was a name people knew, and one that held far more clout than my own. And just like that, my long-term dream of power had come true. That said, simply becoming the Lord didn't mean everything had fallen neatly into place. Many of the local noble families accused me of acquiring my rank illegitimately. They waited, things bad, for me to slip up. They even tried to set me up on more than one occasion. I couldn't trust anyone. On top of that, if I took too long making the improvements I'd promised the people, they would start saying I was just as much of a tyrant as the previous lord. There was only so much I could do at once, though, especially with my hands so full fending off the vulturous nobles. Exhaustion soon began to set in. This wasn't the world I was looking for, the one I wanted to show Morgana. It was day after draining day of betrayal, constantly having to look over my shoulder, fighting to meet unrealistic expectations. I was starting to lose sight of who I was as a person. I couldn't let anyone see me looking weak. They would see it as an opportunity to take advantage of me, to manipulate me, to eliminate me. I needed power to protect myself from those people. Attaining rank was only the first step. I needed even more power. Enough to ensure no one would ever be giving me orders could ever play me for a fool. I turned my attention first to bolstering the economy. I provided subsidies to merchants in the city. I expanded trade routes. I made it known that people of any skin color, even those not welcome in other territories, were welcome in my land, trying to bring some vitality to the city. The previous lord had evidently loved to throw parties, squandering away nearly all the tax money on his own entertainment. If he had left me more to work with, I would have used it to clean up and repair the slums. But for the time being, that had to remain another item on the checklist. I needed more money flowing through the city as a whole before I could make any headway on fixing up the poorer areas. Helping the people who needed it most quickly became a secondary objective. I had a pretty good idea what my former accomplices, still in the slums, were saying about me. "He used us," I could practically hear them whispering. Some of them even started publicly slandering me in an attempt to undermine my authority, claiming I wasn't suited to be in a position of power because I had spent most of my life in the slums. It wasn't long before they had convinced the people I was just another tyrant. I had hoped that they, if no one else, would have sympathized with my position. Realized that I had every intention of helping them, and that I simply didn't have the resources for it yet. But no one saw what I was doing. No one believed me, even when I tried to explain. In one case, I invited an old companion to my manor to discuss matters, but the meeting only turned into an attempt on my life. Having absolutely no one I could trust, no one I could call an ally, hit me a lot harder than I had expected. It twisted my worldview beyond recognition. I had no need for sympathy. I couldn't show care for anyone, otherwise someone would inevitably use it against me, old friends and strangers alike. In fact, those who knew me best, those who were aware of where I had come from and what I had been before, were the ones who fought the hardest to tear me down. Rules needed to be created, punishments established. I couldn't allow anyone to take this power from me. Anyone who so much as suggested I had come from the slums, anyone who dared disrespect me, had to be eliminated. All threats exterminated before they could reach me. Somewhere along the line, I had lost sight of my original dream. Lost all my desire to do right by the people I cared about. Hell, I didn't have anyone to do right by anymore. Why did I need to climb to the top of the ladder? So no one could kill me. Why did I want money? So no one could mock me. Why did I want power? So no one could oppose me. 4 years passed, and I found myself in a very, very distant place. Miracle blood. Sounds like a sham to me. You never know. They say the sound of her first cry brought rain to the land where she was born, saving the whole village from drought. And they say our blood has the power to cure any disease. One day, a curious rumor came to my attention. The kind of whispering I wouldn't usually put much stock into. It was said that there was a witch living in a cottage by the lake. Few had ever seen her face, but they claimed she had the same voice as a girl who had supposedly performed miracles several years earlier in a faraway village. The people loved their stories of heroes and miracles. And if I could show some support for the churches, then maybe people would start complaining I was focusing too much on the economy. So I devised a plot to capture the witch and make use of her miracle blood. I would establish a new church, have it be run by a nun the city had been fawning over for some time. They called her the Saintess. There I would take the witch's blood and call it a miracle medicine, distributing it in exchange for tithes, which the people would certainly come for in droves. So you didn't know Morgana's story? Huh. Interesting. And if the blood somehow did happen to have special powers, then that would make the scheme that much more effective. I'll worry about the veracity of the rumors later. Right now, all I want is for you to capture her and bring her to me. I was too busy to handle capturing the witch myself, so I went and found someone to handle it for me. He was a former slave who had, several years back, massacred an entire carriage of slaves and the slave traders transporting them. Obviously not an upstanding citizen, but there was little doubt he would have any trouble apprehending a single witch. The biggest reason I chose him, though, was because he was enamored with a nun. I honestly thought it was rather hilarious, a murderer falling in love with a nun. I had been expecting the man to object, but he agreed almost without hesitation. There was a mansion on the outskirts of the city which the previous lord had built for himself and had gone unused since his death. It was there I decided to keep the witch, and it was there I decided to establish the church. The nun would have ample space there to provide temporary shelter to the sick and needy. I thought, with what little remained of my conscience, that I was doing the right thing. If one witch, probably an old woman at that, was all it cost to accomplish such good, then a worthy sacrifice it was. In an ideal world, it wouldn't matter young or old. A human being was an unacceptable price for anything. But this was far from an ideal world. So I decided that taking what little remained of this woman's life was the best, no, the only acceptable course of action. She would probably despise me for it, but I would gladly accept her hatred in exchange for the benefits her blood would bring the city. It's our responsibility to offer a helping hand to the sick and the poor, to pray for the abandoned souls. Morgana's words from years back popped into my head. I believed that, as aggressive, self-centered, and totally lacking in compassion as my methods may have been, I was following that mantra. I was offering a helping hand to people who needed it in the only way I knew how. I wasn't so dense as to think she would approve of me making an old woman pay the price for my charity, though. Doing this made me no better than a thug. But everything has a price. For every extravagant feast held, a dozen people go the night without food. That's simply the way of the world. What sad truth. Not that you can't at least try better, but... Ooh, tricky to say. Because he is in a kind of hard situation there. Doesn't excuse this bullshit though. Saying this is the only way, nah. Nah. I was no god. I was no saint. I had blood on my hands. I was a villain. I knew no way to accomplish good without doing bad. After the swordsman departed, I took some time to myself. I filled a goblet with water, smelled it, then gave a bit of it to my pet dog before gulping down the rest of it. Are you still out there somewhere, Morgana? What would you think of me if you saw what I had become? Several days later than originally planned, the swordsman finally arrived at the mansion. I had chosen the observation tower on the grounds for the witch's prison, and it was there I waited for him. He showed up with a burlap sack swung over his shoulder, setting it down on the ground and saying, "There's your witch." I could only hear muffled grunting from inside the sack, but it didn't sound like an old woman inside. The man's clothes and the bag both reeked of blood. Tell me you didn't harm her, dog. I smell blood. You only instructed me not to kill her. Mistakes were made. Limbs were lost. I cleaned up all the blood I got on me. No one suspected anything. That you were able to immediately recognize it as the smell of blood says quite a bit, Lord. You have killed before, haven't you? Enough yapping. She is alive, yes? Of course. I felt a tinge of guilt for the woman, but it didn't last long. Her role in my scheme and the fate that awaited her was the same regardless of the condition she arrived in. Yeah, that whole thing was just stupid. I just want to point out. I guess our guy, the swordsman, would have needed clearer instructions, because cutting off her arm served no one. No one. Mel didn't want it, clearly. Even if he did, that would have been stupid to give it to him for the use of blood, you know, so that he can still have some blood, because, I mean, like, even if the blood really had miraculous powers, I don't think it would be much good if it's like dead blood, you know. I think I mentioned this before. And also, even if it doesn't kill Morgana, it obviously weakened her, so it would mean she has less to give. It's just so stupid, but of course we have to make everyone suffer as much as possible in this story. Yeah. I tossed my gaze from the man to the bag. He crouched down to untie it, revealing a young girl. with one arm severed. As soon as I saw her, I knew exactly who the girl was. But why? What was she doing in the bag? Why was she the lakeside witch? What was she doing here? Why was she so pale and shaking? Why had I ordered her captured? How could I have done that? How could I have let this happen to her? Morgana. My voice was hoarse and rattling. She looked up at me, her face just as disfigured and hideous as it had been 4 years ago. My mind flashed back to her birthday, to when I had considered offering to take her as my lifetime partner if her face hadn't healed in 4 years' time. Is that you? Is that you? The question yanked me out of my memories. You remember me? Did Morgana remember me? The 3 years we had spent together. What kind of person I had been. The boy who had refused to give up putting ointment on her face. Those horribly unromantic encounters at the graveyard. Her taking shots at me taking shots at her. All that time we had shared. How could I ever forget? Morgana, she remembered me. How could I ever forget all the pain and humiliation you put me through? How could I ever forget the blood sabbaths you so loved to hold? What was she talking about? Haven't had enough, have you? Leaving scars on every inch of my body wasn't enough for you. Haven't had your fill of my blood? No, that wasn't me. I was the one who had tried to heal those wounds. You're the man who bound me, cut me up, called me a witch, and then tried to kill me. I haven't forgotten you even for a moment. No, Morgana. I was the man who rescued you from him. I don't care how much my father preaches forgiveness. That's the one thing you'll never get from me. I despise you with all my soul. I revile you with every fiber of my being. For every scar you gave me, I give you a lifetime of hatred. No, Morgana. I was not aware you...
I was not aware you knew the witch, Lord.
His voice made my blood run cold. I didn't just know her. Morgana was. This man, the Lord, he destroyed me, mind and body. No, that was another man. He was already dead. I had just taken his place. I had come from the slums. I had been part of the slaves' revolt. I knew I had to tell her. He ruined my life. But between the sting of Morgana's accusations and my need to protect my current position. I couldn't muster the strength to do it. If someone were to find out I wasn't legitimate royalty, that I had come from the slums, then everything I had worked so hard to build up for who though, would come crumbling down. Do I really think it hasn't already? All I had left was my power, my rank. Is that what I actually wanted? I couldn't afford to lose that too. When did I first start straying from the path? Yes, I know her. Or I knew her years ago.
I see. What do you want to do then, Lord? You look sick.
This doesn't change anything. We lock the witch up and proceed as planned. Why couldn't I tell her the truth? How could I keep her imprisoned? What had I wanted power for in the first place? Would anyone ever believe me if I said this wasn't how I wanted things to turn out? Well, it is kind of hard to believe. Would anyone ever believe me? Before me floats a man, twisted and writhing in pain. Although whether what I'm looking at could be said to resemble a human is a difficult question. It's a hazy, indistinct shape, on the precipice of being consumed by darkness everlasting. I know very well what I'm looking at. The moments before a man's soul shatters. Did I do the same thing to him that Morgana did to me? Was it I who summoned the darkness, who laid his past bare, who forced him to relive those events, to experience once more everything he felt, everything he thought, who put him through the despair a second time? I can only imagine how he must have felt, causing someone he once cared for so much pain. The things he did are abhorrent, more than deserving of reproach. And it would undoubtedly be easier for him to simply vanish into the eternal abyss. But I can't allow that to happen. He still has work to do. His story is essential. It's almost certain Morgana still doesn't know who he really is. He needs to face her, to reveal the truth with his own words. That's the only way we're going to get her to have a change of heart. That's not all he has to say to her either. So I must bring him back, pull him out of the darkness. I grab the man by the arm and begin scouring the blackness for an exit. After some time, I see a speck glistening high above. So I make my way upwards, back into the harsh light of the real world. Yeah, what a tricky situation to be in, to have been in. The darkness parts, and we re-emerge in the dining hall. The man is still straddling me, dagger held above his head, just as he had been before our trek into his past. His eyes are open wide, and his hand is trembling. A few moments later, his fingers go slack, and the blade slips from his grasp, piercing the wood floor by my face. Hey, what was that? I swear I saw some kind of black cloud or something.
What happened to you two?
Neither of you saw any of that? Saw what? If you didn't see anything, then don't worry about it. The necklace. That must have been the key to unlocking his memories. Like when I touched the mirror in the mansion. I have no idea why certain objects show me different memories. But I got what I needed, I think. I'm fairly certain the white-haired girl is Morgana now. The things Jacopo did to her and felt for her behind the third door have much in common with him and Morgana in this life. That's what I said. Why did you dig that up? How the hell did you do that? Why did you show me my former self? Why did you make me watch that? Why didn't you tell her? Had you only opened your mouth and told Morgana the truth? Told her you weren't the previous lord? Told her who you really were? Things could have turned out differently. Turned out differently how? Knowing would have only worsened her pain. Yes, you're exactly right. The man who once saved her life is now the source of all her misery. How would knowing that do anything but cause her more despair? The least you could have done then was let her go free. I had already put money into setting up the church here. Her arm had been cut off. There was no turning back. You can't go back from that. You could have, yes. You could have stopped then and there. Don't act like you know anything. You couldn't possibly comprehend the weight on my shoulders, you dirty peasant. You're right. I can't. And I'll be damned if I want to. To hell with understanding the feelings of a man who could so easily lose sight of what mattered most for a little power. Money. Power. That's what you really wanted to hold dear. So why couldn't you let go of that? Why did you have to go and let what mattered most slip through your fingers? Had you done anything, it wouldn't have had to come to this. I couldn't have people knowing where I came from. I needed wealth, rank. No, you didn't need any of that. Do you have any idea how much Morgana treasured her time with you and Maria? Do you know how she described that period? As one of the brightest chapters of her life. Those 3 years she spent at the brothel until it was attacked. She said that was where she learned how to find joy in life. Enough. She would never say any of that. Why do you refuse to believe me? She never opened up to anybody. That's all just your fantasy, what you want to see in her. You're trying to convince me of something that was never there.
No, I think he's right, Lord. I believe she did feel that way. That day I killed that carriage full of slaves 4 years ago. This girl you're talking about, she was there.
What? That can't.
And she said this to me before I began my massacre. I'm sad because I didn't get the chance to show my gratitude to people very dear to me. She was crying as she did. So that's who she was talking about. It was you.
There's no way.
When exactly did the brothel attack 4 years ago take place?
It was the winter.
I see. Winter 4 years ago is when I met the girl too.
That reminds me. She mentioned something unpleasant happening to her 4 years ago during one of our conversations. That she was forced to part ways with the people who taught her that humans are capable of kindness. She was talking about you. There is still time. You can still set Morgana free. You can still reveal your true self to her. She was likely in shock that day, not seeing or thinking straight. She still thinks you're someone else. Hearing you were the Lord, it set something off inside her, preventing her from seeing who you really were. Her time in the previous Lord's captivity left scars even deeper than she knew. So all it took was that one word. And in her eyes, you became him. Which isn't to say you haven't caused her much pain yourself. But I still believe your truth is the key to allaying the hatred. It will change her perception of the world. I'm certain of it. So please, release Morgana and spill your heart for her. was planning to end it all with the Harvest Festival.
What?
I was already planning to set her free then. I knew damn well it was much too little, much too late. But I needed an excuse to face her. Some occasion to give me that last nudge. So I told myself, that's going to be the day. That's when I'm going to do it. But you had to show up out of nowhere, digging up my past, throwing all my plans out the window. You still think I'm the reason your carefully laid plans fell apart? Oh. I'll let her go during the Harvest Festival. Tomorrow she goes free. Tomorrow is too late. What difference does it make? When the bell tolls noon on the day of the Harvest Festival, Morgana dies. I've had more than enough of your so-called prophecies. I'm done. Why do you still refuse to believe me? I'm not making anything up. I'm from the future. I know how this ends. Having an occasion and a plan can certainly make it easier to take action. But you can't just wait for the right occasion for everything. Sometimes, if you don't act on something as soon as you've decided to do it, you'll miss your chance. In your next life, you make the same mistakes. You lock someone up that you care about, eventually causing her to break down entirely. And you're so fixated on waiting for the right occasion, you completely destroy any chance of salvaging anything. If you're set on releasing her, then release her. Jacopo. Stop being so damn fixated on your occasions already. Enough. Damn you. You're right. You don't have to tell me I'm being a fool. I'll do it. Right now, I'll do it. I'll release her. Thank you for making up your mind. I didn't make the lock require 3 keys, because the weight was too much to bear alone. It was because having others with me would force me to keep up the Lord facade, to prevent me from letting anything slip. Or maybe I was just waiting, hoping someone would betray me, make me pay. Pathetic, I know. You can have the necklace. It belongs to you. Though I doubt Morgana will accept it, I hope you'll still attempt to give it to her yourself. Will you do that? Where did you get that anyway? From Maria. I thought she would have thrown it out by now. I assume she doesn't think very highly of me. Be honest with me. She was planning to kill you. Maybe that would have been for the best. To her, I'm nothing but a power-hungry traitor. The necklace. I'll take it. Here you are. When he takes the necklace, Jacopo looks as though he's on the verge of tears. Whether from the pressure of not wanting to lose face, or simply because he's no longer able to, he doesn't actually shed any though. The other two just stand and watch him quietly. Neither of them saw the vision of his past, but they don't pry either. Our exchange was probably sufficient to give them an idea of what happened, even if they don't know the details. Clutching the necklace in one hand, Jacopo takes up the head of the procession to the observation tower. Well, I will end this here, even though yeah, this really feels like we're about to barrel right into the end, but I don't have that much time today, and who knows how that whole conversation will go now. Yeah, that was partially how I expected it to go, and partially not. I was surprised that he didn't know at all that it was Morgana until she was, already captured. So, yeah, I mean, still sucks what he did. Like, you can understand being torn about all this, but yeah, I mean, we had this with the other two as well. There's no real excuse to do all this bullshit, so. But oh well, that's why we're all going up that tower and go and see if we can get Morgana to accept their apologies, basically. But we will do that next time. As always, please let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and yeah, until the next episode. Bye bye.